Nintendo headquarters, expert game counselors answer your questions. Their source of information, Nintendo Power. Your direct connection to the pros for better play.
Different people of different ages all have different things to say about Nintendo Power magazine. Bamers, about 15 years older than me, would look back on it fondly as a holy grail of Nintendo's tips and tricks, where entire game guides were printed on each perfectly placed page. However, once games started going from this to this, an entire walkthrough just wouldn't be able to fit in such a measly number of pages. Gamers my age, who had a subscription to the magazine during the DS and Wii era, had it for an entirely different set of purposes. To get our mushy, creaseless brains filled with Ninty propaganda, and to see what virtual console and WiiWare games we would beg our parents to get us. For those of you who aren't diehard Nintendo sheep, or knew how to use the internet and didn't have to rely on monthly magazines to know what games were coming out, Nintendo Power might be nothing but a passing thought, relegated to a quick flash of memory from a magazine section at your local Borders. Nintendo Power was a legendary magazine all about what was going on in Mario's gamer orphanage, straight from the mustache himself. It ran from 1988 to 2012, and I was a subscriber from around 2009 to mid-2011. During that time, I lived and breathed those sexy gamer pages. But like all things, and especially things of the print media variety, it had to come to an end. This video will serve as a short history of the magazine, as well as my own personal retrospective. What was so special about Nintendo's 5th console generation, and what did Nintendo Power add to that, if anything? Sit back, crack open a Capri Sun, and get your favorite baby bottle pop to suck on. Let's talk about Nintendo Power. In the radical year of 1988, as the Soviet Iron Curtain began to slowly disintegrate, former Nintendo of America marketing president Gail Tilden was like, "Hey, this Nintendo Power Fun Club newsletter thing we have should just be like a magazine or something. Don't you think?"
Hole in one! Nice approach!
It quickly became a magazine. Sick writing, Neelarn. Good job. It quickly became a magazine that focused heavily on providing game strategies, reviews, and previews of upcoming games. It was the place for everything Nintendo and didn't even feature advertisements from non-Nintendo companies until 1998. In 2005, the magazine went through a pretty major overhaul in order to appeal to more of a general audience. Instead of publishing game guides, it focused more on building a sense of community by publishing reader mail, rumor milling, and just focusing more on fan service in general. In 2007, the magazine switched publishers to Future US and increased circulation. It kept trucking until 2012 when they opted not to renew their licensing agreement. It was a proud end for a magazine that ran for 24 years. Kind of bothers me that it didn't run like an extra year just so it could be 25, but, you know, I don't run a business. I don't know how business works. Hi, welcome to The Disaster. You're one of the special ones. I'm a stupid freak and I want to die. So now that the history lesson is out of the way, let's really deep down talk about this shit, because there are some things that I still think about to this day, and I haven't cracked open a physical copy of this magazine in years. First of all, what was the deal with this Ocarina ad? It was in every single issue, and it's burned into my memory. I can't forget it. I don't know why I remember it so vividly. Maybe it's the model, this scene kid who looks like they're at a Renaissance fair and carve figures made of wood. They look like they run an Etsy shop that exclusively sells dream catchers made out of recycled plastic. They look like they live in the woods and chew sticks. I don't understand. I think another thing that made Nintendo Power special during the 5th generation of consoles specifically was that Pulse section and publishing that reader mail and fan mail and asking questions to the community. I consider myself a pretty digital boy. I'm logged on, but I was never a huge forum user or anything. The reader mail was just a really cool way to see everyone's hopes and dreams for the future of Nintendo as a brand. and just to see like what people wanted out of new consoles or new games. It also gave the staff writers and editors a chance to show a little more personality by letting them answer questions and having their own columns. As a chubby little boy with glasses too small for his face and a middle part, I actually sent in a question via email and got it published. Like, I didn't send my name, so it was anonymous, and they called me Green Grub, which is cool, I guess. And also they heavily edited my question because I must have typed it horribly because I was like 11. But it was there. I swear. As you can see, I was the #1 Metroid stan back then, and I still am now. Don't forget it. Also, my wish ended up coming true. The finger on the monkey's paw curled, and we got Federation Force. I mean, later we got Samus Returns, so like, they kind of made up for it, but at what cost? There's so many DS and Wii games that I wouldn't have known about if it wasn't for this magazine. Specifically their feature issue on Dragon Quest IX with all of like the Toriyama artwork and references to other Dragon Quest games, and just the full page spread was beautiful. And to this day I still waste hundreds of hours on games with anime characters watching the numbers go up. The NES 25th Anniversary Edition also just kind of springs to mind as a really beautiful tribute to the console itself. Why do I keep saying issue? Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. I had the subscriber edition with all like the little sprite guys on the front. If I can find it, I'll like put up footage. But it was just really great and inspired me to find a way to legally play these games. The Metroid Other M issue was also incredible. It was before the game came out, so we like didn't know what we were in for. Unfortunately, the game did come out later, which kind of spoils that. Metroid Prime 4, that'll come out eventually. God, I hope so. Nintendo Power as a brand is currently back in the form of a podcast on Nintendo's official YouTube channel, and it's actually hosted by the former staff editor Chris Slade. It's a solid podcast, but it still has that Nintendo family-friendly sterility.
My sitar skills are legendary.
The developer interviews are really cool, and they still do Twitter Q&As, which is nice. I would recommend it if you're into Nintendo insider information.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
As traditional print media continues to fall to the wayside and disappear completely, it's important to remember what once was and why it was so important. Of course, everything information-wise is still around, it's just in a different format. Not to sound like one of those, but it was really nice to get something in the mail as detailed and filled out as Nintendo Power Magazine. Being able to flip through an actual magazine and see like the demos and sometimes even get posters was just really cool, and it's something that I'll treasure. Of course, there's some forms of print media that for some reason will never ever go out of style, at least until the people reading them eventually shrivel up and die. But the little niche magazines where small or large communities could come together were really something special. A huge number of old Nintendo Power magazines are actually archived on the internet in PDF form, and it's really cool to look back and flip through them. The magazine added to the DS and Wii generation of consoles a sense of community and discovery when the internet was still a little bit like the Wild West. And that's something significant that will never really go away. If you like this video, look at your computer and smile, and think about how you've supported someone, and you're doing great. Leave a comment on what your favorite magazine was if you had one, or your favorite dead form of print media. Mine is magazines. Yours could be newspapers. I don't know. And subscribe if you want to see more. Have a good one. Bye.